Welcome back to Air Quality Matters and One Take. One Take, my take on a paper or report on air quality, ventilation and the built environment. One Take in that it's done in one take and tries to summarise for you a scientific perspective on something interesting in, usually 10 minutes or less, because who has the time to read all these amazing documents, right? This week I'm looking at a really practical and I think very important paper from the Journal of Building and Environment. It's titled Assessing Ventilation Performance in Schools Using Continuous CO2 Monitoring, Insights from Renovation Projects. And this one caught my eye because it addresses a massive real-world challenge. We all know that good ventilation in schools is critical for students' health and their ability to learn. Post-COVID, this isn't even a debate anymore, I would hope. So school districts, particularly in the US, where this study was done, have been spending huge amounts of money on renovation projects to upgrade their HVAC systems, although I'm sure people think more can be done. But that leads to the million-dollar question though, doesn't it? Did it actually work? And how can a school district, with maybe dozens or even hundreds of buildings, realistically check and manage the performance of all of these new systems without breaking the bank of expensive testing? This paper offers a really interesting and scalable answer to that very question. So here's what they did. The study was big. They went into 48 schools and put simple internet-connected CO2 sensors into 138 classrooms. They let these sensors run, collecting data continuously to get a baseline picture of the ventilation performance before a district-wide renovation campaign. Then, after the renovations were completed, they went back to the same classrooms and did it all again, collecting post-renovation data. This before and after design is what gives the study its power. But what's really clever here is how they analysed that mountain of data. Anyone who's looked at raw CO2 graphs from classrooms, and I've looked at my fair share, I can tell you, will know that it's a bit of a messy squiggle of ziggy-zaggy lines. So the researchers developed a novel automated method for making sense of it. Their algorithm could scan through all the CO2 readings and pick out the important patterns. It learned to spot the build-up periods, when kids come into the classroom and their breathing builds up the CO2 at that point. And it could also spot the decay periods, like a lunchtime or at the end of the day when the room empties out and the ventilation systems work to clear the air, causing the CO2 levels to drop back down towards outdoor levels. By automatically identifying these clean build-up and decay curves, they could calculate two key metrics for ventilation performance. The first was simple, the daily maximum concentration, or DMC. Basically, what was the highest the peak CO2 level reached during the school day. We generally want to keep this below 1,000 parts per million, so it's a good simple pass or fail kind of a metric. The second was a bit more technical, but it's really the gold standard. It's the air change rate. This tells you how many times per hour the entire volume of the air in the classroom is being replaced with fresh outdoor air. They could calculate from this how fast the CO2 built up and more accurately how quickly it decayed when the room was empty. So the big question, what happened after the renovations, right? Well, the result was really clear. The renovation campaign absolutely had a positive effect. When they compared the before and after data, they found a statistically significant improvement across the board. The daily peak CO2 levels dropped on average by over 230 parts per million. That's a substantial improvement, and as you'd hope, the air change rates went up. So on paper, the project was successful to a degree. The new systems were delivering more fresh air than the old ones. But, and this is the crucial insight on the whole paper, I think, the job wasn't finished. Even after the renovations, they found that in over half of the schools, 57.5% to be exact, the peak CO2 levels were still climbing above 1,000 parts per million threshold. The new equipment was installed, but it either wasn't configured correctly, wasn't operated properly, or wasn't being maintained. Welcome to my world of ventilation. And this finding gets to the real heart of the paper's message. Just installing a new HVAC or ventilation system and walking away is not a guarantee of good ventilation. How many times have we heard that? A renovation project is not a one and done event. The real lesson here is the power of continuous monitoring as a management tool. The authors showed us that by these relatively cheap, scalable CO2 sensors, a school district can get ongoing, real-time picture of exactly how their buildings are performing. They can move from a reactive model, where they only find out about a problem when a teacher complains, to a proactive one. They can look at the data and see, classroom 2B in the East Wing is hitting 1500 parts per million every afternoon. Let's send a technician to check the damper settings or something. The air change rate in the library has dropped by half since last month. Maybe something's wrong, like a filter is clogged. So, to wrap this up, the big takeaway for me isn't just that the renovation worked, although they did help. The much more important conclusion is about process. This study provides a powerful evidence-based playbook for how to manage ventilation performance at scale. It's a continuous feedback loop. You measure, you identify issues, you make adjustments, and you measure again to confirm that your fix actually worked. This work demonstrates that continuous CO2 monitoring isn't just a fancy academic exercise or something just to set thresholds or traffic lights in a classroom. It's a feasible, affordable, and incredibly effective tool for ensuring that the investments in new ventilation systems actually translate into healthy air for students and for staff day in and day out. It's the key to bridging that all too common gap between design performance and real-world operational performance. Thanks for listening. This has been this week's One Take. Hope you enjoyed it. These podcasts are not possible without our partners, Safe Traces and Imbiot, so thank you to them. See you next week.